Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. I'm Jazz. I work for Helvar Marketing in the UK. So this is our second series of the hospitality webinars, and today we'll be going more in depth in our solutions and products and how they can help in the hospitality sector. So without further ado, I'll pass you over to Pasi, who will now be discussing. Thank you.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Let me just share my webcam. Well, here it's now 11 o'clock here in Espoo, Finland. I'll give one more minute for people to join before we start. And it's now 1 minute past, so let's get started. Hey, good morning, good afternoon for everyone. This is the second part of the webinar series we'll be hosting. The previous part was held in Tuesday, where we went through the benefits and more of our reference projects, and also we briefly touched upon our solutions and products for hospitality sector, and mostly in hospitality sector, not casinos, not public areas, but mostly for hotels. And now in this presentation, I'll be going through more in depth on our solutions, what we have for hospitality area. So without further ado, let's move on to the solutions. We have, just a moment, got the focus right. We have four solutions. So we have our bread and butter workhorse offering, our Imagine routers, which we have been deploying quite heavily, and every single one of our reference cases which I presented on Tuesday were done with Imagine routers. So that's the sort of ultimate fallback if you have to do anything on public areas or lobbies anywhere in totally interconnected solution. But having said that, that's not the only thing what we have. We also have ActiveAhead, our wireless offering, which works perfectly for retrofitting. It's machine learning, so very fast to deploy, very easy to set up, and it's self-learning. It understands when the purpose of the space changes. If there are movable barriers, it will learn those. Plus, it has configuration as well, manual configuration there as well. And we do have our room set offering, which is designed for meeting rooms and also works in some areas in hotel rooms and perhaps in some other areas as well. And to bring everything together, at least Imagine routers and ActiveAhead, we have our digital services, which provides higher level information and alerting, space utilization information for whole sites. And now, having all of these solutions now here, what we have done so far, like I said, is mostly with Imagine routers, but we do have the ActiveAhead and RoomSet, and we have these services that could be either put into an existing offering or into existing deployment even. ActiveAhead is really nice for retrofitting, but these are also something that you might want to consider for any future projects you have. So let's go deeper into the router world, or actually, before that, a short illustration on what we have, what kind of different areas we are talking about in this presentation. Obviously, we are focusing onto the hotels. So what we have is different areas of the hotels. We have the back of the house areas like garage, staff premises, anything, warehouses, kitchens, whatnot, which is typically not in the scope of controllable lighting, like a full router solution. It could be very well, but in most cases it's handled with the traditional lighting. There are, in our new offering, there is a place for those. For example, ActiveAhead is very well suited for all corridors, all back of the house areas, so wireless lighting and sensors. And also, if you have floors which typically don't have any control, then, for example, ActiveAhead and RoomSet is very well suited for those. They can be, you can populate individual areas with those, and it's very straightforward to install, and it's very nice to manage throughout the life cycle of the hotel. And for all the front of the house, all the highly visible areas, obviously the router is the de facto solution, which you might want to do because you can do anything with that. And then to pull it all together, digital services, I'll talk about that as a last item in this presentation. Now, going to the imagine routers. So in ideal world, you would put one router per floor in a hotel environment. So if you have 20 floors, you have 20 routers in the system, and you would make it all work together. You could have a central control for it. You can hook it up with digital service, so you get a full visibility on what's going on in the hotel, space utilization, anything. You can have lighting management. It's really flexible and scalable, easy to install and maintain, and simple integration to other systems via our portfolio. We do have a very sizable portfolio of components which you can be used together with routers or any other of our DTIM series devices. So we can integrate with hotel management systems to an extent. We can have a central configuration. We can provide information. It's really quite nicely scalable solution. And with this, you can do almost anything that you require, meaning that if there is a specific lighting scene required for lobby, bar, restaurant, that has to be something that anybody can use. Not something that requires rocket scientists, but something that works with a traditional old wall panel. You can do that. You can have sequencing. You can have different scenes for breakfast and dinner, and it's all is programmable, and it scales really well. Now, in terms of the product itself, the key features, what we have in the router is that it has everything. So you don't need to, when you specify the router, you get most of the features already in. If you need something extra, like extra relay inputs and outputs, then of course we do have an extra component for that. But it has most of the things what you need. So it's less hardware to specify, buy, and install. It minimizes the risk of making mistakes when specifying the environment. Like I said earlier in previous slide, there's a customizable programming in the router that suits all possible needs that there are. And like I said, there's a large variety of devices. And everything is now within the router system. How it works is that the routers are connected via Ethernet connection. So you have as many routers as you need. You have it in its own Ethernet network, and then everything behind the router, all the luminaires, controls, they are in a DALI bus, or as many DALI buses as you need. Obviously, we support color control and color temperature control, DALI Type 8. This is something that hasn't been mostly used in anywhere else besides bars, restaurants, but for example, in hotel rooms and corridors, traditionally it hasn't been used, but now in the more modern, like spa type of hotels, it's becoming more popular, and people want to control the alertness of workforce and guests as well. In hotel rooms, it's becoming more popular. It used to be 2700 Kelvin, but now it's becoming more popular, at least in higher end, not the over top of the line luxury hotels, but in the like I mentioned, spa type of hotels. And of course, providing a circadian rhythm control, so you can have control how alert people are over the daily cycle. That's meaningful for both of the guests and for staff to enable higher retention of staff, better well-being for the staff. And we have communication parts for building with other protocols like DMX, OPC, BACnet, Iridium, and RESTful API as well for integration and openness. And this is pretty much in the nutshell of the router what we have. It's the workhorse. It's the thing what we have been using for several years for most of our bigger deployments, and that's still the case. It's very relevant product. But now the next product what I'm presenting is something quite different and equally applicable for existing projects. Now going on for the Active Ahead. Now the one thing in hospitality sector for Active Ahead is that there are areas which typically don't have router, like back of the house, like garages or corridors where people don't want to have control. But with Active Ahead, you can easily retrofit those spaces with luminaire, sensor, and a driver. You just need the power there. Once you install it, it will automatically make a Bluetooth mesh out of it. So what it will do is it will learn how the how people behave in the space, what kind of movement patterns there are, and it will adapt to that. And by that, what comes out of that is that it's really, firstly, obviously, it's wireless Bluetooth mesh, but it's also really scalable. You add as many units as you need, and they will just automatically connect to the network and learn what they need to do from their neighbors. There is no setup needed, but you can do the setup. You can group these things. If you have a corridor and you want all the luminaires to work in a single group, you can group them. If you want to deploy this on the workstation and you want to have a user enabled light intensity and color control, you can have an app for that, and you can have even an NFC reader based thing that when you place your stuff here, it will automatically adapt to the user. On top of this, this provides really high level of energy savings, because it will learn how people behave in the space. It will only put those lights on that are absolutely needed, and it will learn proactively that when somebody's entering the space, that which lights are more likely to be needed. So it will light the path where people go. That increases the comfort level, and it gives a nice visual clue that okay, this is the expected direction where you're supposed to go. So it's a really intelligent offering. And as the last point, it's ideal for renovation projects because you don't need to pull any extra wiring. If you have mains power in, then you can just populate it with active ahead. It's really quite something. Now, the limitations for active ahead, obviously, because it's a Bluetooth mesh, we cannot have luminaires 100 meters apart from each other. You have to have them relatively close to each other. So less than 10 meters, okay, it should work. Thick walls, it obviously doesn't communicate through thick concrete walls, but anything that you would expect the Bluetooth technology to communicate through, it works pretty well. And it will know if there is a wall, it won't turn on the lights on the other side of the wall. It will. That's the learning part, what it does. I pretty much went through this already, but there is an illustration here about the learning process, that how this thing learns the patterns, how people move. So for example, if you have like a movable barrier, and you have like a meeting room, several meeting rooms split by movable barrier, it can learn the behavior, new behavior when the movable barrier is established. It takes few tries for it, maybe 3-4 extra rounds, but then it learns it. So it's not usable for areas where you have really rapid movement of setting up and bringing down walls. But if you have, let's say, a regular office space where you have offices and somebody comes up, constructs a new wall, it will learn it pretty quickly enough so that no manual commissioning is needed. That's the sort of continuous self-learning what we have there. Plus, it will learn how people move in the space, so it will always maximize the comfort for users. Then, of course, there are the basics are in Activate as well: presence detection, daylight harvesting, so energy-saving functions that are needed for modern hospitality industry sites as well. And it supports obviously wireless control panels, so Notion control panels work nicely with that. Mm-hmm. And as with any office or type of installation, there is a corridor hold for safety functioning it. So recapping the active ahead part, the application summary, where it mostly shines. When you think about customers entering the hotel, where they perhaps come in with their car and they go park in the parking garage, that's probably the place where you want to have automated lighting in. You want to have the best possible first experience for whoever is entering the hotel. And I would say that ActiveAhead is clearly #1 solution for that area, unless you already have their controlled lighting. But that's if you want to combine energy saving and customer comfort and make it simple, then ActiveAhead is that. When customers come through the lobby, then it's router all the way. And then obviously, if you have floors which have corridors that require energy saving and good lighting, then ActiveAhead would be perfect place for that. Outside those premises, it's workable to use it in some of the meeting rooms, warehouses, even gyms. But two main areas are really parking garage and corridors on the back of house areas. And it works as well in conference centers and meeting rooms like it illustrated. Then the next one, what we have is a room set. It's the one difference from room set to ActiveHead and Imagine Router is that it's a standalone solution. So in case you don't have a requirement for having a central control over area, but you want to have something simple, something that you can control, you can set up quickly, you need to change it every now and then room set is your choice. It's a single DALI bus, so maximum 63 devices, controller, sensor with light level sensor, movement sensor, whatnot. It works together with wireless panels as well. It has a color control. It's the thing where it really shines is the simplicity of the setup. You only need an Android tablet. It will be a Bluetooth connection. You can just pick and place all the devices in your network, and you can pretty quickly make a room setup. Originally designed for classrooms and meeting rooms, it works very well in hotel meeting rooms. In some cases as well, you might want to consider this for hotel room, depending on the specification. So I would say that whenever you don't need integrations, whenever it's lighting control alone, if you just need to have lighting control there and no integrations to wherever, then room set would be the solution for you. In any other case, it falls back to the router deployment. So one more thing about rooms is that if you have a number of rooms to deploy, for example, number of meeting rooms that look the same, or number of hotel rooms that look the same, what we have here in this application is that you can take the layout of your existing application, let's say copy, and then move on to the next room and say, let's use this old template, and it will automatically find out all the devices in your network and allow you to populate it and copy all the settings. So if you have light levels, groups, daylight harvesting, color temperature even, it copies all of those settings into the room, exit delays, everything that's needed. So it's pretty handy if you have more than one or two rooms. If you have 10, 30, 100 rooms, it's easy to replicate and copy. So you can make it quickly, introduce it quickly, and it works. Now, for the room set itself, as it was designed originally, it was designed to work out of the box. So if you are working as an installer or electrician, the great thing with room set is that when you install it and power it up, it just works out of the box. It finds out all the devices, it runs DALI addressing for the DALI bus devices, and what it does is that it programs everything with the default set without any configuration on the tablet. You have a functional system. If you have a 7-button panel, the 4 scenes plus up and down and off, you have like 4 different light levels for all the room. Then up and down works and off works as well, and the sensor works there as well. So it's in absence and presence mode. So it works out of the box. You get somewhat functional system when you have just installed it, and it's really easy and fast to configure. I would say that for a regular meeting room, it takes me less than 90 seconds to configure a meeting room. If there is configuration for daylight harvesting, that's slightly more complicated, because then you need to measure levels, and so that takes time, and you need to be doing it in the nighttime. So that I wouldn't say that would take 90 seconds. That would take a little bit more, but it's really easy. And one more thing is that when this is installed, this configuration, this graphical configuration you see on the screen, it stays both within the tablet and also within the sensor in the ceiling. So whenever next guy comes, and that I mean anybody with the configuration app and knows the pin code, if you have protected it, then they get the same configuration from the sensor, so they can continue where you were left off. So it means that maintenance over the life cycle of the application becomes super easy. It's just graphical configuration. You can click any device, change the settings, move them around. If you have new devices, it's really easy to automatically find them, and you can place them wherever. And if you want to introduce, for example, a wireless wall panel, it's as simple as find me a new wall panel, and click one button in the panel, and then you have it there. So in case you are testing or validating a room setup or layout, what you need there, that's really easy with room set. And one more thing, still one more thing, the OTA over-the-air updates. I mentioned the wireless wall panel. It's not existing in the product as of today, but in a matter of weeks, we will introduce an OTA update that will introduce the wireless wall panel to room set. So it's an application update that comes from Play Store. That's the reason why we share everything through Play Store. We have control over the updates to the tablet, and whenever you connect your Android tablet to the room set sensor, it will automatically recommend that you want to update the system firmware. So even for existing systems, you get the new functionality in. That's pretty nifty, I would say. Then the key features. As mentioned, easy graphical setup and configuration with that. So anybody who understands the basics of DALI, like understanding that you cannot exceed the current available in the DALI bus, then that would be the level of information required and the basic understanding of lighting. But you don't really need to have any specific training otherwise for the application. It really is quite straightforward to make things happen. As I mentioned, automatic device discovery and DALI addressing, meaning it works out of the box. Then copy and paste rooms, so you can scale pretty fast. You can have a number of installers. If you have a maintenance window of 1 hour, you could probably do maybe 50-60 rooms per person in an hour. Over the air updates, so you get all the new funky things. So that was designed there because we saw that the regulations and certification require tunability in the product. Typically, everything has been working in history so that whenever you introduce a product, you have to adhere to the specification what was given at the time when it was released. We wanted to go over that. So now that if there is a change in energy consumption or some other funky rule is coming on, we can introduce an over-the-air update and we can keep up with the spec. We want this thing to be great. Now, recapping on the room set side a bit. So where it works, conference rooms and meeting rooms primarily. That's where it was designed. So it provides you the easiness of configuration. If you have movable things, if you have number of lights you want to tune, it's really quite nice. Not designed for the application is not designed for end user, but it's designed for somebody who configures the room. So facility manager, whoever, hotel manager, whoever has a little bit of eye on how the space should look like. That's for him then. And then for hotel rooms, so I would call them lower end hotel rooms, but still higher end than with traditional wall panels. So something that if you want to set up a morning scene, afternoon scene, maybe working scene or relaxation scene, those are the things that you can do with room set. It's really cost efficient and practical way of testing and setting it up. But if you have any requirements for integration, then it falls back to the router deployment. Then, as the final part, I'm talking about the digital service that pulls this all together. So what we have is we have an cloud gateway that connects to our cloud, where we provide you with a graphical user interface. What we can provide you with digital services is reducing downtime, increasing the reactivity of the system. When there is an issue, we can report it back to you, and you can have like an external notification for this thing. If there is an issue that can be fixed remotely, we can do things remotely as well. We can lower the operational cost. Instead of sending people on site, we can do some of the things remote. Plus, we can provide energy savings through advanced reporting on usage of the space. What we have is, turn this on. What we have is a graphical user interface that illustrates where everything is. So all the sensors there, it can collect information on space utilization. It can provide alerts when things are breaking up. It's really practical. Now, going one by one, the graphical user interface obviously designed to be easy so that no rocket science is needed for using it. It's something that anybody can quickly understand, take a grasp on how it performs. So once again, for hotel, perhaps a site manager, hotel chain manager, hotel manager might be able to use this thing and understand the specifics on given floor or given site. Then we have 24/7 cloud-based multi-site monitoring, so we can monitor things as they proceed on sites. The system communicates via RESTful API, so it can be integrated with virtually with anything, meaning any other system that needs this information, we can pull it out from this thing. Our graphical user interface, the floor plan, it shows system faults and maintenance needs. So it can locate you the device. It gives you the like a floor plan map, the identification where the breaking thing is. So you don't need to wonder which one should I replace. You don't need to ring any unnecessary doorbells to find out the broken one. You can locate it from the map and walk there and then fix it. Obviously, everything needs to be secure. So VPN tunneling for remote assistance, and we have automated notifications for system faults and maintenance needs, and image light testing and reporting. What we have here on the right lower hand corner is the timer optimization. What we provide is actually a energy savings report, which is it's pretty handy. So what we can do is we provide information on space utilization patterns. So for example, if you have a space which is used for 5 minutes at a time, but every once an hour, it's perfectly meaningful to turn off the lights. But if you are using it for 5 minutes and then 5 minutes off and then another 5 minutes, perhaps it doesn't make sense to turn off the lights in the between. So you can optimize the lighting and you can optimize how much you want it to be on and off, so that it provides you with the maximum comfort and maximum energy savings. And now, how this thing works, and then one more thing, what we also provide is information on the population, how much space is utilized. So in case you have a meeting rooms that are reserved for a certain amount of people, or other spaces that they want to know that how much people are really using the space, you can optimize that part. That's ideally designed for open plan offices, but it works really well with spaces that have more movable barriers as well. And how it works, how it's put together. The great thing is that it's only a single component. We have a cloud gateway that we hook up with our router system or active ahead system, and that provides the connectivity to the cloud. So it's very small from a customer endpoint. It's very small component that gets into the mix. It doesn't impact the deployment almost at all. It's very straightforward to set up, and it's secure. It provides remote visibility on the sites, and this is really, I would say, one of the easiest things to deploy. So to recap what we have and what we have had so far, everything we have been building mostly has been built on top of the routers, and that's the workhorse of offering what we have had. It's really scalable, flexible. We know it works really well. It has nice big ecosystem. And now for retrofitting and back of the house offerings, we have Active Head, which is wireless, scalable, almost no configuration needed. For isolated spaces, meeting rooms and some hotel rooms, we have RoomSet, which is isolated but DALI-based system, works really well. And if you need to replace, if you have a space, you have equipped with RoomSet, like a temporary, or are considering what should you be using, router or RoomSet, you can deploy RoomSet. And if you decide to go with router, what you need to do is you need to replace the RoomSet sensor with 321 sensor, and then hook up the DALI bus in the router. So that's the replacement procedure you need to do. Not overly complicated. But with RoomSet, you cannot have the router connection. You have to have the 321 there. And if you want to connect your routers or Active Ahead to services, RoomSet doesn't work with services. It's isolated, like I mentioned. Then services is the thing how you get the higher end cognitive understanding on your network, saving costs in maintenance and operation, increasing efficiency and optimizing space utilization, and of course increasing the well-being of people by having the right configuration there. So to check out what we are aiming for, and this is actually a recap from Tuesday's webinar, is that what we are aiming for is for the guests and staff actually is the ease of use. Lighting controls don't have any role in the game unless people can use them. So what we are aiming for example, with room set, easiness of deployment, it needs to be easy to maintain. We need to have a system that really people can commission, otherwise they won't do it. And we can do that. And with our router, we can really make simple wall controls that are easy to use for anybody and can provide a significantly more value than not having the lighting controls in place. We can increase guest safety. We can increase staff safety as well by having the proper amount of lighting available whenever needed. We can increase well-being by putting circadian rhythm in place. We can use proper dimming. We can increase the quality of sleep for guests by tuning the color temperature of lighting, taking away the blue parts of the light, for example. For staff, we can provide ambience that's mostly for restaurants and other public areas, lobbies, but we can also improve the performance of the staff by providing the proper circadian rhythm control. When people are working 10, 12-hour days, perhaps they need to have energy boost every now and then when they have a long day behind them. And in terms of industry, what having a proper lighting control means is that it will increase the loyalty, both because you have happier staff, but also because guests' well-being is better handled. You will have higher energy efficiency on the site, and the operational cost will be lower by deploying the right tools. For example, operational cost, I mentioned heavily active ahead, but also routers and digital services together you can use for increasing the operational efficiency. And this pretty much concludes the presentation today. Any questions for?
Thanks, Pasi. That was a really great presentation. So let's see what questions we have. So we have one here from Andrew Parry who says, is it worth using room set when you have a router solution?
Not really. If you have router solution, it's easier to combine everything with the router solution. Room set is practical if you have a router solution, but you have a floor where you are thinking that do I need some kind of control there or not? I would perhaps first consider active ahead for all the public areas in a space where you don't have the DALI networking and DALI router in place. And then for rooms, I would perhaps consider room set. It's also a price point issue. The room set is slightly more cost effective to deploy than a router for individual rooms. For not your suites. Your suites you want to have router-based solution, but if you have rooms where you are thinking that whether do I need a lighting control solution there, and it is still a price point sensitive discussion, think about room set. It might be the right solution for that.
Cool, thanks, Pasi. And a related question is a hybrid solution, i.e. using a number of solutions, best for hotels, and if so, why?
I'm sorry, come again. What's the question there?
So is it best to use a number of solutions for the hotels, and if so, why is that?
It all depends. I would say that if you can, I would not deploy a hybrid solution. I would do everything with router, because that's sort of like that's the easiest way of handling these things. Then again, for hybrid is more of a result of an evolution. If you have a hotel which wants to do an energy certification, it has a router already in it, but the back of the house doesn't have any wiring or any capabilities, then having a hybrid is an easy way of getting there. Meaning that you might want to put active ahead into garage, you might want to put it corridors, into staff premises, the staff meeting rooms, whatnot, and you might put rooms here and there. So it's I think it's easier to deploy a single technology, but if you have an existing and you want to retrofit something, or there's a sensitive price point discussion of what you want in specific floors, then you might be getting a cost advantage by deploying a hybrid offering.
Thank you, Percy. So there's another question here on Active Ahead, and it's, does Active Ahead work with emergency lighting?
My understanding is that there is certain level of how it works. To be honest, I'm not 100% expert on how Active Ahead works, so sorry, a bit unable to answer that. I will have to forward that to our Matti Westerinen,
No problem.
Director for Active Ahead. Sorry.
And Andrew, we can always get back to you on that one. So there's a last question here. How can Helvar Solutions help to save money for hotels?
Well, there are two ways saving money. Firstly, by optimizing the energy consumption. So optimizing using the digital services with our router or using Active Ahead as a standalone even. We can optimize how much energy you are using by using your lights. Then central control allows you to tune the lighting levels, which saves money. Secondly, we can talk about operational efficiency, meaning that when you have a remote connection to your hotel, we can save money by not always sending person on the site. We can do things remotely. Plus, we can notify things when they happen. For hotels, not working light means immediately losing money. If you have lighting control problem in a room or in a corridor or in a meeting space, it means that you will be immediately losing money and losing reputation. By having operational efficiency in place means more money for the hotel.
Thank you, Pasi. So that's the last of the questions. So thank you all for your time. We really do appreciate it. If you missed the webinar on Tuesday, you can always catch up on the recording at helvar.com/webinars. We do have a range of more further webinars coming up in the coming weeks. So you can see this again at helvar.com/webinars. That's it from us. We hope you stay safe and have a great day, and hopefully speak to you soon. That's bye from me. Thank you guys. Cheers. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.